Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Coffee Connect. Today, we're actually connecting with Brandon Brown, who is a risk practice manager for risk and compliance over at ServiceNow. I've known Brandon for a while now through a previous company that he worked with. And now, as we are Fusion 3 is a ServiceNow partner, I've worked with Brandon quite a bit. Especially because we focus in the risk and resilience space. So welcome, Brandon. I appreciate you taking the time and jumping on here with me. It's kind of informal way, but I really think bringing people like you can out and just kind of talking to you, sharing your experience, sharing how you got where you are, just highlights to a lot of people like what's potential out there, what's possible.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
welcome.
Happy to be here. Happy we could connect and finally make it work, find timing since ServiceNow is such a booming ecosystem. I know it's hard to always line that up, but yeah, great to get together and have some undivided time to chat about ServiceNow and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. You touched on something pretty funny there. It is hard to find actually an hour of, undivided time where something didn't get scheduled over or scheduled over three times, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad we were able to finally get this to work and get this connect going here. I'm going to start off with, a little bit of congratulations from your doctorate. I know I do not have a doctorate. I know the level of effort that a doctorate takes. I didn't introduce you as Dr. Brandon Brown, but well done on the doctorate. Maybe you can touch on also what kind of drove you to at this point in your career to take a look and go towards the doctorate realm, right? It's a different path than some people may take. They may not go for their doctorate. They may go for a master's in different areas. What made that kind of jump for you to say, yeah, let's go for a doctorate here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for the congratulations. Been a
Yeah.
long time coming, so I'm definitely happy to have a social life again and get some free evenings. So that'll be fun.
Right.
But yeah, the main driver for me is I've always been fascinated with expanding technology, the way humans kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, and like this is going to sound very like grandiose, I should say, but just the way that humans really connect and unite when it comes to like research, innovation, technology, and we're kind of advancing as a human race, not just as individuals. And ever since I was little, that always interested me. Like if I get into a field, I don't have to start with nothing. I can read books and read research, and I can already start at level 8, and then I can advance the field to level 9 out of 10. And we're just expanding human knowledge. And for some reason, like even as a 10-year-old, that just beyond fascinated me that there's so much research out there and so many things that people weren't previously reading and like getting up to date on and when to expand the knowledge in that field. So that's part of it. So as a child, I've just always been curious. I always want to learn more. I can never learn enough about things. I'll go down like Wikipedia rabbit holes just about like applesauce or something weird of the day, just curious about it. So I've always had that curiosity, and that kind of what led me into tech in general. Because I mean, as you know, tech's constantly evolving; it's never changing. If you read a book about tech today and then never touch it again for 2 years, you're going to be completely behind the curve. Everything's different. So that constant kind of drive to keep change is something I really enjoy. So then when it came to a doctorate, it's kind of the same thing where not only do I want to be leading my doctorates in business administration, and my dissertation focused on how employees feel about returning to the office, so it kind of ties in the tech and the business world. But I didn't want to just sit back and be reading articles about new research that's coming out and trying to keep up with changes that way. I kind of wanted to be on the leading edge of it and or doing research and creating papers and things like that that can really advance the field for others as well. So I just really enjoy the fact of, the more we all know, the more as a society we're going to do better, as a human race we're going to do better. So I just want to do my 0.0001 contribution to kind of that human knowledge and see how much I can help build it out and hopefully inspire some others along the way. And we all just, as mankind, kind of grow our knowledge and try to figure out more and then realize we know nothing at all and reset and keep growing.
Yeah, it's really great. I think you touched on a lot of pieces in there, and I do like even though you're saying you're equating it to your 0.0000 whatever 701%, right? If we all found something that we could contribute that even that percentage, right, and we bring that forward, obviously that starts to add up, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's good inspiration to just say, hey, just do something, right? Bring something forward. And also have the confidence that what you have is something to offer, right? I think that holds a lot of people back a lot of times is that, who am I, right? I look at it sometimes when I do these connects in my videos, like who am I, right? But I get a lot of good feedback, and people are thirsty for that. And to your point, where the curiosity, right? People are wanting that. We're I think if you look at it, we want input, right? Sometimes we can have too much input, and we have to kind of control that. But we do want input, and we want that. We want that, and if we can get it from a community that we've built, in a community that we trust, even better, right? And so I think that's a very cool piece. On the curiosity piece, you touched on something there. For me, I was always that way as well. I was always, how the things work, right? I got that from my father. I would come home and the TV would be apart, right? And my father was trying to figure out how everything worked. I would start doing the same things. So always having that curiosity of being curious, right? Just start asking questions, start doing the research, and maybe do your own research and come up with your own things, right? And that's what really drove you there. The topic of your dissertation on the work from home or return to the office, I think, is a very interesting topic. Obviously, there's been a lot about it. There's still some conversations about it. I think that what we have to do is step back and look at as a society that we are ever evolving, right? This work from home or return to office is kind of a struggle where, hey, yeah, I'm paying for, 10,000 square feet of office space, get back to the office. Or, is it really just, we're just evolving, right? If we look at how we worked in the past, we were on the road all the time, right? My dad was a traveling salesman. Well, that became, faxes. Great. Now I could fax somebody information. I didn't have to drop off a quote. I could fax it to them. And then all of a sudden I could email, right? And now, so we're ever evolving. And this is just an evolution in my mind of how work is done, right?
Yep.
The internet changed how work is done. Unfortunately, it was a pandemic, but I think inevitably we were going to get to some kind of change of how work was done, and this kind of work from home, return to the office. So there's such a human element to that whole psychological aspect of the work from home, return to office, that I think we really need to pay attention to. And again, thank you for your work on that and trying the betterment of the, humankind, as you put it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just really hate when the reason for doing things is because that's how we've always done it, or that's what we've
Right.
done in the past. It's like, come
Right.
on, that's a lazy answer. So we can look for something better. And then, especially with data-driven results, the RTO really doesn't make a lot of sense to me because a lot of the data says that people are more productive when they can work where they want. They're happier. There's better team culture. So yeah, I'm very curious as well. I know you mentioned kind of the real estate thing. I wonder if that is truly a driving factor. And some of my future research, I might look into why exactly corporations are pushing this return to office. Are they just misinformed and they think they're doing the right thing, or
Right.
do they have data we don't have access to that's making these decisions? So it's very interesting. But yeah, I completely agree
Yeah.
with you. I think it is an evolution into the next step, into the next phase, and I think we need to embrace it rather than kind of be afraid of it.
Right, right, absolutely, and it would be interesting. Maybe there is some data that we're missing, right? I don't want to totally discount it, right? And who knows? Maybe when we put this out, we'll get some feedback on that. I think and if as you're watching this, whoever's watching this, please provide feedback on that if we're missing some facts there. But I agree with you. I think for a long time pre-pandemic, we were having a struggle with what people called work-life balance, right? And I think that was because there was no such thing necessarily, and this is my own personal opinion, I'll put that asterisk and I'll put it down at the bottom however I need to do it to say this is not a thought of anyone else but of me. I think you were struggling. Work-life balance was a struggle or a concept, but it was an archaic concept. I think that as technology changed how work was done, it became more just life balance. Work was just another thing you did in the day, right? If you're a parent, you got up, you got your kids off to school, you did some work, you went grocery shop. It was just one of those things that was on your list of things to do, right? It wasn't necessarily this kind of block that happened because we were able to, connect with tablets and phones at any hour of the day. We could work with people in Europe or in the Pac Rim, at a moment's notice. So it became more, let's start talking about life balance. And I think what the pandemic did and what the kind of work from home did was it kind of thrust that forward and said, see, we've been talking about just life balance for a long time, not work-life balance, but just life balance. And that
Yeah.
allows you, in my mind, to have that life balance, right? Yes, there are some things that you can't do, right? I know there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of important work that cannot work from home. So I don't want to discount them, but there's a lot of things that can have this kind of balance and work. So, yeah, it's a fascinating topic to me because I think it's a more of a sociological experiment, if you will,
Yeah.
more than just a hey, we need to get people back to the office because they need to be in meetings personally, all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, look what we're doing today. We wouldn't necessarily, to do this in person would be great. Don't get me wrong, but it would also be relatively expensive, right?
Yeah.
So so that's it's. I think it's a very interesting time, and it'll be interesting as we evolve even further, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
who
It,
knows
it's
what?
it's kind of like the industrial revolution,
You're
how
right.
that kind of changed textile factories, automation, the supply line, or the production line, things like that. And
Hmm.
a lot of people are saying now we're kind of in a technological revolution where the future 20 years from now is going to look so vastly different than today, especially with AI and things like that. That's really going to be unrecognizable, kind of the way the country changed once we got into, creating steel nails and steel beams and got away from wood and all that older stuff that the or the industrial revolution brought in. So it's very interesting with the tech side to see. I feel like it's in the past you could look at a building and say, okay, we can build a building taller, we can build it wider. You kind of have a path to get there. You just don't know how you're going to get there. But
Hmm.
with technology, I feel like it's kind of something where we don't know what the future is. We don't have that end goal in mind. We're just kind of naturally letting it develop and almost evolving it as we go and seeing where it takes us. So I think it'll be a really interesting time in human history to see what technology could do for us, what we lose via technology, and things like that. And I think it will be like 50 years from now. I bet it's going to be a drastically different landscape for people than it is today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if you looked at, and especially the I think the acceleration is happening much faster,
Yeah,
right? So if you looked at what from 18, I don't know, call something 1858 till 1900 to 1920 to now, like the things that evolve are just happening so much faster, right?
yeah,
And you mentioned AI, and I think AI is uh, it's a phenomenal topic and it's a phenomenal thought process, right? I think we've had some kind of form of AI for a long time, right? Whether we call it machine learning, we called it virtual agents, we called it whatever. Um, I think that we've had that for a long time. I think now with the AI though, it's okay. We're starting to understand how we can use this now, right? And now the acceleration that will bring will be like you said, in the next, I would say even in the next 10, 20 years is just going to be exciting. um
yeah, for sure.
and I think that's where, again, that's another kind of sociological experiment, right? There's people that are afraid of AI, there are people that are embracing AI. I know at ServiceNow is definitely embracing AI. I mean, ServiceNow is all about efficiencies and workflow and making work better, and getting everything to flow better. And you look at what automation can do, right? There was automation in the past, but now if you lay this artificial intelligence over that automation, uh, and especially in the areas that ServiceNow is looking to do it, it's just going to accelerate everything, and that's going to change how people work. It's going to change again just what people's work is, right?
Yeah,
Our work in the future will not be the work that we're doing today. And I think that's where, and to be able to experience these things in one's lifetime, right? Yeah, you know, we weren't necessarily there for the industrial revolution, right? So you see the internet come on. I'm
yeah,
going to date myself a little bit. I saw, the internet come on and boom. And then to see this whole AI push going and seeing what, and how, as we come together as a collective, right, as a society and as a collective, where that AI can take us.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and as you said, ServiceNow is definitely leaning into it with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of automation they do, and really, if you're a cloud platform, you have to be leaning into it because it is where the future is going. And
Hmm.
there are people who are afraid of it, but I think they kind of misunderstand it, where they think it's going
Right.
to replace their job. But exactly like you said, it's gonna augment your job. It's going to change your job a little bit. No one wants to be, running reports for 20 hours a week. If you can automate that, find something more creative, more innovative to do with your 20 hours, that's just going to change your job a little. It's not going to replace it, in my opinion. So I'm obviously all for it, leaning forward with tech and AI and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I think as the world kind of gets behind it and see the positives, of what it can do, I think it will just slowly evolve into a new world where everything, and even like our health and whatnot, can be AI augmented. We have sensors telling us before the doctor even knows if we have bad blood work and stuff like that. So even outside of tech, just the way it's going to enhance human lives, I feel like is going to be pretty huge.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that's also just one of the powers out there. I think
Yeah.
you can lay AI over something where there's so much data out there. To your point, right? We're doing all the research and providing your own research and putting data out there in the world. There's so much of that data, and as we get more efficient at mining that and putting AI towards that, now you go in and you can have that instantaneous feedback, right? Of, hey, this is something going on with your health, or hey, we've seen this type of cancer before, and this is where we need to go with this, right? Or you're going down this path. I mean, the health industry, I think, is just going to be, really positively influenced by a lot of that, and especially because of all the data that they actually have that can be digested into there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
one other, in the slightly changing, just with all of that curiosity, right, and wanting to understand what got you into the business continuity risk management space, right? What did you just happen into it, or was something attractive there as far as understanding? And I'll give my reason that I like it, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit of both. So one of my first career, or when I first started out my career, I was on a help desk, like a lot of IT people, and so as a part of that, I was a part of a BCM or a business continuity team as well. And just the first time I even realized that that was an issue was kind of eye opening. Like I was like 18 or 19, like, yeah, if this data center goes down, we have a cell phone or a telephone, we hardwire in, we set up a desk that way people can call us here, and they laid out the procedure of what they do. And I was like, huh, I never thought about that. What do you do if like a giant data center goes down? So then I kind of realized this was a whole industry in and of itself. And then once I got on the ServiceNow platform, I was already kind of working slightly in SecOps, like events related, Orion, alerts, and things like that. And then one of the tools I just was voluntold that I'd be working over was ServiceNow at the time. And so I remember specifically, I almost rolled my eyes when my manager said, "You gotta go get certs in ServiceNow." And I was like, "Oh, great, another tool we got to manage. Who knows how good it'll be?" Knew nothing about it. Then I went out and got the certs, got the admins everyone starts with, and I really liked it. I liked how much you could change things. Like, it kind of reminds me of like an Android phone, even though I have an iPhone, where you can really you're in control of the ServiceNow platform. Obviously, you shouldn't customize it like crazy, but you absolutely can. If you have a crazy idea for an application that's siloed by itself and you want to go out and create it, you can do that all on the platform. So I thought that was really cool. So then I got into ServiceNow a little bit, and then within that role, I kind of was working on the BCM team as well and working on resiliency. And it was just interesting to me because it was something I didn't know that existed. I knew it was in huge critical need. And then the timing of my career taking off was just the universe timing worked out well. I ended up joining Fairchild in November, and then March of that year, 5, 6 months later, was when COVID hit. So then, obviously, business continuity, IRM, all that stuff took off like unbelievably. ServiceNow actually put out 2 free apps at the time to like track,
Mm-hmm.
I think, workspaces and COVID
Right.
vaccines and stuff like that. So seeing all that and seeing how big of a need it was to the world is what really drew me in. And then just knowing you're helping people, especially during the COVID time, once the technology was focused on like the social distancing and making sure more people aren't getting sick or dying. It's like, not only am I like, yeah, I enjoy creating software that will automate an audit for someone and make their day job better,
Right.
but when we're
Right.
creating software that can potentially actually save lives, it was like, holy crap, this is not only really important, it makes me feel, you know, fulfilled that I'm actually doing something to help the world. And so that's really what drew me into risk, knowing how big of a need there was and
Mm.
how underutilized it is. It's kind of like IT, really, where they don't think about it until it happens and they want to put budget towards it. So I think being on the forefront and telling people, hey, start thinking about this before an emergency happens so you can save as many people as you can.
Hmm.
And obviously you're attacking data centers as well, but I care more about the people, and want to make sure that, yeah, we can do all we can to help them.
Yeah, I think we might be able to hear the sirens out my window, but
Sounds good.
it's a weird timing. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that was really well said, and I agree with you from the ServiceNow platform, right? Definitely one of the most powerful platforms I've worked on. I got hooked on it back in 2014 when I was basically looking for a tool to, it was my responsibility to find something that would work better in our operations center, right?
Yep.
And that's where we selected ServiceNow. I was involved with the operations center on the DR side. So, as we did lose data centers or we even lost our office because of a snowstorm, we had, okay, what does it take to get the generator going, right? We had to run generator tests on a regular basis. So that was always in the back of my mind. And then when I was working at that company and we were working in the GRC space, right? Much like almost your same time frame that you were with Fairchild, which also I'll add that in a little bit, but we broke off and started Fusion 3 Consulting in 2019 around the GRC products, right? Because we were like, hey, this is something really important, and at the time, I feel like it was kind of underserved, and so we broke off into that, and then again, the pandemic hit, right? And a lot of our colleagues were like, "Oh man, how you guys doing? You just started a business, and now you're into a pandemic." It's like, "Oh my god, you're struggling." And unfortunately, I mean, fortunately for us, but unfortunately because of the circumstances, our business actually took off because of the fact that, yes, while people had continuity plans or recovery plans, they realized that they were just woefully inadequate. Right. And they had to
Yep.
refocus on those. And they just didn't work. So we were very busy at that point, much like, and also the Fairchild tie-in is that we were introduced to Aaron at Knowledge 19, ServiceNow's conference, and we had known Aaron Calloway in the past, and he had said, we walked up to him and said, "Hey, we just started this up," and he said, "Hey, how can I help?" Right, and so we started being an implementation partner for Fairchild, the Maestro RS product. And that's when I really got in and said, okay, I can see the real importance of this and how this can actually help, right? Because the next time that this happens, and there will be a next time, I think that it may not be a pandemic, but it'll be something of a global scale. This can really help people, right? This can
Yep.
protect
Yep.
people. This can make sure people are safe. This can make sure that there's some kind of plan in place to make sure your people are safe and then bring your businesses back online. Maybe you're supplying something very critical to infrastructure or something like that, and they can bring that back online. So I kind of, that's where my passion is in there, right? From the
Yep.
same aspect. So yeah, so it's a great story as far as how you jumped in there.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that kind of is, you're kind of resonating through a lot of these questions, and also something I wanted to ask about and talk about, and you and I have talked about it in the past, is the not only the constant learning that we like to do, right? I equate it to, rather than, and I'm going to date myself again here, but instead of Glengarry Glen Ross, always be closing, it's the always be learning, right? I think that's a huge thing. I love always learning. I'm getting more certs. I'm taking on work and figuring things out, but also imparting that knowledge back out, right? And sharing that and saying, okay, I have knowledge. How can I impart that to somebody else, right? How can I also validate my knowledge potentially, right? And get into sharing it, and then you get challenged, and then you have to really kind of sharpen your game. So I also am an authorized trainer for ServiceNow. I love training people. I love doing training sessions. I love doing even ad hoc sessions with people. I love seeing those light bulbs go off in people, right? And being able to share that. I think you have a similar mindset of taking what you have and making sure that it gets out into the world, right? Not only through your research and through your doctorate, but also just personally, right? Like in the train and educate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially for some reason with me, youth is a huge focus. I really like to mentor and work with younger people who are kind of trying to define their career and decide which way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if they're interested in IT, the ServiceNow career path, I can help them with that. But just
Right.
IT in general, I try to help them find roles that not only are they somewhat interested in, but they'll enjoy doing it day to day. Because I feel like, obviously the old saying, "Find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life." That's definitely true, but I also think it's a little unrealistic. I mean, none
Yeah, a
of
little
us
bit.
love
Yeah.
checking emails at 8 a.m. and on Monday
Right.
morning and stuff. So I just try to tell people find a job they enjoy, and
Mhm.
that can really develop into a career. But yeah, mentoring not only the youth, but also I work with veterans at ServiceNow,
Yeah.
and then Accelerate at ServiceNow, people who are making a career transition. Some of them are veterans, some of them are stay-at-home moms, want to get back into the career force. Some of them are
Yeah.
just people looking for a change and things like that. So yeah, I think it's super important to give back, and that's one thing I really loved about the ServiceNow community was how much they give back for absolutely free. I mean, we have people like you, Chuck Tomasi, just tons of
Mhm.
people. Robert the Duke, I always see him on LinkedIn. They're
Yeah.
just giving away this content. And I mean, I'm sure they're making a tiny bit back via views and stuff like that, but majority of it is just wanting to help people,
No.
and that's what 100% drew me in, and that's what I like doing as well. And once I got into the ServiceNow space and started to get to the point where I felt like I had the knowledge to give back, that's when I just dove into the mentoring, trying to help
Yeah.
others. And the more people we can get into the ecosystem, I think it's just a net win for all of us. I mean, as the old saying goes, the tides rise and lower all ships at the same time. So the
Mhm.
more robust the ecosystem, the more we focus on scaling, making a better product, having a relationship with not only people getting into the field, people who are experts in the field, customers, just all the above. We're all here working for the same thing, to make work better, to make work easier, to make work more fun. So I think working together in that way is just huge and a really awesome part of the ServiceNow community in general.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot of names out there, right? And there's so much, and I hope I'm doing my little part by bringing these, right, and just hopefully providing a little bit of entertainment and also a little bit of knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and of all the people you mentioned, it's just you're right. It's just they're putting so much content out there. They're sharing their experience. They're sharing. They're also educating to say, hey, look, I made this mistake. Don't make it. Here's how I made it. Here's how I got out of it. And it's just that's kind of a microcosm of the community at large with ServiceNow. I've dealt with a lot of technologies in the past, a lot of tools, a lot of applications, and you're right. I haven't seen a community like ServiceNow's. And what really got me was my first knowledge conference, right? The amount of content that you can digest. I mean, it could be just, you could keep that going 24/7 for a week and still not get all the content out of it. But the amount that's available, right, for you to take advantage of and digest, not just from people's experiences, but labs, right? Technical labs. You have access to product people. So it's just it fosters that where you want to kind of contribute, right? It almost draws you in to say, I want to contribute too somehow, right? So yeah, it's a great community, and I appreciate you from the standpoint of the mentoring, and you mentioned veterans. I have a big spot for that as well. Any kind of retraining that can be done to help a person's life be better, I'm all for it, right? However we can help that, and if we are in a position to do that, let's do that, right?
Yep.
And figure that out and help that out. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I definitely I love bringing people along like that. And also, I learned from everyone I teach. I learned something back about myself. I learned something back about that I didn't know. So it's not just I'm not just sitting up at a lectern and spouting. I'm also absorbing everything from everyone I'm teaching as well or mentoring. So
Yep. Yeah,
I think it's a
absolutely.
very rewarding experience. So I'm
That
glad you have that kind of same.
Yeah, that's huge in the ServiceNow community and on my team,
Mhm.
especially that I manage. Doesn't matter if you've been here a day or 10 years, you might have a new perspective or something that works. So we're very much open to other people speaking up and bringing their combined world experience into solving whatever problem we're facing. And
Right.
yeah, just like you said, we learn something as well. And there's been plenty of times where someone with less experience has a better solution because maybe they just specifically saw this instance in the one client they worked on. You never know. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's a ServiceNow saying the hungry and humble. I think it's very true. And people who are attracted to the ServiceNow space, and especially those who do really well, I think they really do embody the hungry and humble keep learning, keep giving back, keep learning, and just repeat that cycle.
Oh, right. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I think those are the people that you see rise right throughout the community.
Yep.
Um, I keep looking at my notes here too because I've scribbled down some notes. The
Oh no, you're fine.
another piece that you were very involved with at ServiceNow, and I've seen some posts on this as well. You're talking about your mentoring and whatnot as well, but the families at now. Can you speak a little bit about that? I know that I haven't seen much about it lately, but I did see some posts about it, and I saw some things about it, and it was just, to me, it was just a really cool cultural aspect of the company, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. So I was the global co-chair last year, one of the founding global co-chairs,
Mm-hmm.
along with Rita Chung, and it was absolutely awesome. So ServiceNow has 8 other EBGs, employee belonging groups, which are basically employee resource groups, is what they'd be referred to in the larger industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we focus on different areas. Like there's the UNIDOS, which is the represents South America. We have the an Asian belonging group. We have a veteran group. We have a LGBTQ plus group, and then obviously my group was the ninth and families.
Mm-hmm.
So the point of the group was really just to be a resource to people on all aspects of the family spectrum. There's people going through adoption, people going through IVF, people needing daycare, people needing help getting their kids into college, and then also since we are a global company, there's a lot of cultures that have multiple families living in the same home, multiple generations, I should say. And so we
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
focus on elderly care, how to manage that, how to manage
Sure.
living in a multi-generational family. Because there are a lot, especially working remote, there's a lot of things that are unique to your situations that others don't experience. So yeah, we started the group. We got the funding from ServiceNow. ServiceNow is awesome in allowing us to start the group and things like that. They put out an open invite for those who wanted to be a part of it or those who wanted to lead it, and I ended up applying and getting the position along with Rita, and it really took off. We became one of the fastest, or I think the fastest growing EBG in ServiceNow history. I
Awesome.
think our goal was like 500 members over the whole year of
Mm-hmm.
2024, and we hit over 1,000.
Wow.
And the people we brought in for speaking events were amazing. We had a lady from New York Times. If you're a part of the ServiceNow company and you're watching this, you can go to the family group and find those little archives for last year or watch modern stuff for 2015. But yeah, we had Julie Morgenstein, a New York Times bestselling author about time management and parenting. We had speakers come in from a Grace group, which is like a resource group offered to ServiceNow employees, and a couple other awesome speakers. And then we also hosted like events like Bring Your Kids to Work Day. We had fireside chat with executives. We had Halloween contests, stuff like that, just to kind of make us feel a little bit more united and create that community, even though we are working remote. So that really, it was a huge blast. It was a ton of fun. It was a lot of work as well, obviously, but it was,
Sure.
yeah, it was great. And just seeing the response from the people at ServiceNow that we got so many members so quickly. People were in there interacting, talking about, one person's talking about daycare centers in San Diego. Someone else is asking about, college applications in Canada, and we're creating like these subgroups for people to talk and stuff. It was just really cool to kind of foster that. And then, yeah, in 2025, I decided to step away from that just because I finished my degree in February, wrapped that up. So I tried to promise myself and my family I'd take it a little bit slower in 2025, but we'll see how that works. I can never stay too slow for too long. But yeah, it was a great experience. I encourage anyone, if there are employee resource groups at your company, either join or be a part of them. It's almost always volunteer opportunities and volunteer people who are leading it. So if you want to step up and kind of help create that culture, you can be the culture leader, and it really just promotes a less toxic work environment. Not even toxic, that may be too harsh, but it a lot of work environments are less connected, and this really
Yeah.
promotes a connected work environment. So it's really nice to have that, especially you join the group, you automatically know you have something in common with everyone else in the group, whether you're an
You're right.
ally or a
Right.
represented member. It's like this somehow affects me and I want to help and help others. So it's a great qualifier to get similar perspectives together to help each other.
That's great. And I can hear the passion for it in your voice too. So that's really fantastic. And I
Yeah.
think that the 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 inclusion, oh,
Yep.
right? It really, I think that's probably just one of the biggest human nature aspect is that we want to belong, right? We want to feel included. We want to have those connections. We're looking for those connections. I
Yep.
think that there's and especially when we do have this kind of work from home situation and we are just disconnected physically, right? I think to find other ways to make that virtual connection even stronger, right, is huge. And I just commend ServiceNow as well as yourself for doing that, right, and enabling that and putting the importance on it. Right, is one thing to say, hey, yeah, we have this, but let's put the importance on it. Let's get the funding for it. Let's do it, right? And again, I think that what that
Yeah.
also shows is that people are hungry for information, right? And they want to share their experiences and learn from others, right? And having something like that where you have, families that, hey, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we just moved to San Diego. We found this, we found that. When you're here, come talk to us. We'll introduce you here, whatever. That is huge. That is, that takes a lot of, there's so much going on in people's lives, right? A lot of times we don't slow down and just ask, right?
Yeah.
We're always just kind of either talking at each other or trying to get to the next thing. We never just ask, like, how are things going? Is there anything I can help with, right? And by having those kind of environments where people feel comfortable coming in and saying, hey, look, I need help, right? A lot of people don't even feel comfortable asking for help, right? I think that's a really cool kind of community within a community, right? It was kind of a community within the community of ServiceNow. But I think there's a lot of lessons learned there. And I think that it points back to people wanting to be connected. And I think that's the kind of work from home, return to office area, if we tie that back there, where, yeah, I think there's some people, and I even have it every now and then, where it's like, hey, it would be kind of cool to walk into an office and walk by people and, say hi and, all that kind of stuff, right? And kind of have that human connection. And I think that's where we might see something evolve in the future where there's a balance there, right? There's some kind of hybrid approach or multi-layer approach there. But
Yeah, absolutely.
it goes to the point of wanting to be connected, right? I think social media is a big aspect of that, right? I think that people flock to social media because they can find groups that they can belong to and they can connect and they can be welcomed with open arms and it can be around the world, right? I think there's also, you don't want to get too far into that and get too far away from actually social connections, true social connections, but there's a huge power in that and being able to belong and get that kind of, hey, can someone help me with this, right? And you can blast that out to people you don't even know, and they offer up information and advice. It's great.
Yep. It requires a totally different skill set to maintain culture remotely versus in the office. I think that's a big part that research is revealing as well. When people say,
Yes.
remote connectivity just doesn't work. Well, it does work, just in different ways than in the office. And you have to be aware of that. And in the office, you don't have to set up a weekly breakfast because you're already seeing everyone walking around. You're probably grabbing a cup of coffee anyway. But,
Right.
remotely, if you work in the same area, you set up every 2 weeks, we're going to meet and have breakfast and chat about work. Like, you have to take the initiative. It won't just happen on its own. You have to be proactive about it. But yeah, it is just a different environment than maintaining the culture in person.
Yeah, agreed. I would definitely agree with that. And I think that that's where that might be some of the shift, right? And I think you're going back to your point about mentoring, younger people coming into their career, right? I think I think they're fascinating people because they're going to be bringing a shift along with them,
Yeah.
right? And it will happen, whether we want it to or not. It's going to happen because they have shifted how they live their life, right? They live their lives very differently than I did when I was their age. So they're going to bring that shift into the workspace, right, and into the workplaces, and that's where you're going to start to see that, right? And you're going to see some of that shift. Now, layer on top AI on top of that, who knows where that can go? But I think you're going to really start to see that where they have that culture. They have that way of, hey, I know how to do things remote or virtual, right? Because I grew up with a lot of it, right? And you're going to see, I think you're going to see that shift. So I think it's an interesting time where this next push is going to be really, really telling in how to do that. And I think you're right. You can maintain that culture. It's just going to be different. It's something different that is different to us, maybe, or at least different to me at this point in time, but it's not going to be different to the next wave of people coming into the workforce, right? It's just gonna be like, well,
Yep.
yeah, this is how we do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think about that a lot with our kids. So we have a 12 and 7-year-old, and like for
Mhm.
them, going to work means going in your office and closing the door, or they see
Right.
work and you're on a meeting on headphones, you walk in the kitchen and grab a drink. And at first, I used to tell my daughter, since she's a little bit older and more, she's getting ready to start working and want to start a job and stuff like that. But I was like, this isn't necessarily when you start working how it's going to be. Like, you'll probably be in an office to start for a couple of years, 8 hours a day, the commute, making your lunch, and just letting her realize that even though this is a shift, it's kind of a newer shift. So we don't know what the future will look like. But I feel like she kind of has a slight skewed view that like jobs are pretty awesome and flexible and
Right.
the work life balance is great. And it's like, well, it took a lot of time and career climbing to get to this point. So I don't want her to have unrealistic expectations. But yeah, I think you're also right. Maybe by the time she is working, it won't be unrealistic expectations that everyone can have a great work life balance, work from home, and walk to the kitchen to grab a drink if you need it. So
You're
we'll see
right.
how it evolves. But yeah, it's fun to kind of watch the younger generation's perspective on the world and how it changes. And I'm sure we felt the same about like you said, with your dad being a traveling salesman, your
Right.
expectation was, all right, you're on the road, you're making your money. And once we become adults, like, oh, it's not necessarily the case. So it is fun to see those evolutions take place.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very cool. And yeah, I mean, just how information is digested too is very different,
Yep.
right? So yeah, I think it's very cool. The another post that I saw from you recently was you went and got a certification in change management, correct?
Yep.
And was that in more organizational change management or like typical change management like we think about in the IT world?
So it was a little bit more in organizational change
Yeah,
management.
great.
So something big that ServiceNow is focusing on in 2024, and this is
Hmm.
something that's very public, and we've always actually been pushing forward towards it, is just creating more of a scaling partner ecosystem, not only with deliveries, but also just delivering on their own, co-deliveries, advisory deliveries, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So if ServiceNow makes 10 billion next year and they want to hit 20 billion, the only way they're going to hit that is by massively scaling. And
Right.
on our risk business unit, we have like maybe 18 people who are installing risk products. That obviously isn't going to get us to $20 billion. So we
Hmm.
definitely have to work with partners a lot more. We need to bring more people in because even with the partners and us working together, it's not going to be enough to get there. So with this massive change and this massive scale going on, I
Right.
figured it'd be a great time to go take a look at a cert. I had some previous experience in change management, so I had a little bit of a baseline. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized that what we're going through is really an org change. We're going to come out the other end looking a little bit different as an organization than we have today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to brush up that cert and see what I can learn there to help make this transition a little bit better.
Hmm.
And then one of my good friends, Kirk, who I used to work with at Fairchild, made a comment on that, saying to skate to where the puck's going, and I just thought that
Right.
was a great summary of it. Absolutely, that's where I see ServiceNow as an org and the ecosystem going. We're going through a little bit of change. We're focusing a little bit more on scale. So I just want to be there to help manage that change and do everything I can to make that change successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, and you're right. I saw that from Kirk. And it was, I like that analysis because that's exactly, and being a business owner now, it kind of has a little different meaning, another kind of additional meaning, I guess, if
Oh
you
yeah.
will, right? We're constantly evolving, right? You have to constantly look at your strategy. You have to reevaluate your strategy. You can't just keep doing the status quo because, you could be going where the puck's not, right?
Yeah.
So I think that applied there as well. And I think organizational change management, I think is such an interesting topic because there's such a psychological bond to it. If you look at any organization and you try and implement ServiceNow, you try and implement new processes, get rid of well, that's how it's always been done, or even some of the process owners out there might not like me saying this, but also even having the ability to admit, well, maybe my process isn't the best process in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's a psych game to evolve that through that organizational change. And I think anyone who does OCM in their organization or has any kind of aspect or any kind of education on it is going to be so critical. Especially, I think we're at an inflection point right now, especially with AI, right? We don't know AI where it can go right now. I know we're just kind of scratching the surface. Yeah, ChatGPT is great and it's fun to go do this kind of stuff, and it does do some great things. I've rewritten some of my LinkedIn posts with it, but I think we're just at the frontier, if you will. We're still getting the wagons hooked up to go across and take a look at it. But with that, there's going to be a lot of change that's going to happen in every organization, and the organizational change management is going to be critical. You and I can go in and implement a risk platform, not a problem. But if the organization doesn't change with it
Yep.
and the people don't adopt it, who cares, right, of what we did? And I think we see that as an implementation partner of ServiceNow. We see that in a lot of projects, right? You're almost doing more change management consulting than you are true kind of process and implementation consulting, because you have to get that change mindset in place already before you can get that implementation, and implementation can be a success.
Yep.
So are there bad implementations? Sure. But also, I think some of the implementations may stall or fail because organizations can't change quick enough, right? They may even want to change, but they can't really change quick enough. So I think looking at and putting in some kind of program in place to handle organizational change management in these organizations is going to be critical, especially right now, because there's going to be such a rapid change between new workforce coming in, an AI aware workforce coming in, right? And
Yep.
wanting to push that envelope. I think it's going to be, definitely skate to where the puck is and look out, because you're going to get checked into the boards if you're not.
Yeah, yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with it being psychological. I mean, it's just human nature. If you come in and you
Right.
don't know somebody and you say what you're doing is wrong, here's the better way to do it, everyone's going to be defensive just
Right.
automatically because
Right.
you're attacking them. Their idea feels like their identity, so that's a huge
Right.
part of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, with our implementations, yeah, it is important to manage that. And we are doing change management with almost every implementation we do, unless it's, an enhancement implementation. But majority of the
Right.
time, it's either we have Excel sheets, we want to get on a platform, or we're coming off this platform, want to get on a new one. So the leaders, the CIOs, the higher up people who are signing the SOWs and agreeing to this, they're usually on board with it. But unfortunately, change management doesn't work when just one leader tells you to change. We have to go in and get those teams to take ownership of the change, be individual leaders in their roles, and that's what really helps the change take place.
Right. Right. It's got to come top down and bottom up. Right. And
Yeah,
that's the only way
exactly.
that changes are really
You need,
successful. And you're right. I mean, you do have to do it the right way. I mean, I would get defensive too. And I did get defensive in my previous roles. Right. I can
yeah, it's,
understand
it's
that.
human nature. I mean, even
Absolutely.
outside of work, you come in and tell someone they're feeding the dog wrong. You're like, what? I've
Right.
been doing this for 2 years. Dog looks fine to me. So
Right.
yeah,
Fine. Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to approach that right, and relationships are that way, right? You have to approach the
yeah,
conversation correctly, or else you are going to get defensive, or they're going to get defensive, and it's just not going to go well. Nothing's going to be heard. It's going to be a mess. So I
yeah,
think, but
absolutely.
commend you on that as well, and kind of recognizing that shift at ServiceNow, and going out and getting that certification and kind of digging into that, and again, it goes back to just kind of what I feel is your nature of, well, let's go learn more about that. Right. Let's figure out what do I need to know here coming up. And
Yeah,
now I think you have something valuable to bring back, not only to ServiceNow, but back to the world, right? And say, okay, look, this is some things we learned here on this change management, and let's all be prepared for this. And ServiceNow is definitely aggressive on their growth. I think that why not, right? Why not have wildly audacious goals, right?
yeah,
And let's go for it. And as a partner, hopefully we can contribute to that and be part of that. And we have been, and we will continue to do so. And I think that you're right. I think that in order to get to those numbers, it's really going to have to be rising all boats at the same time, right? And it's going to take that to get from, if you were going from 10 to 12, well, maybe we can do some things there. But if you're trying to double, or even, I would probably even say that, even though it's not spoken out there, they probably have even bigger goals somewhere
for
in the
sure.
back room. But in order to get there, you really need to rise everybody up, and I think that's going to be telling as we go forward here. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of that can be done with different AI pieces, not only AI for the users of ServiceNow, but the AI for implementers, right? Being able to
Yeah.
implement it differently because of AI, being able to accelerate product adoption because of AI, just all of those pieces. I think there's a lot there that can come into play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of things that maybe even customers don't realize is how big of a one team we're on here. If let's say tomorrow someone snaps their fingers and not another ServiceNow implementation ever happens, you're out of a job, I'm out of a job. That sounds like we're on the same team to me. So
Right.
we all need
Right.
ServiceNow to
Yeah.
be successful to get where we want to be. So yeah,
Right.
it's one big ecosystem, truly.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And you're right. That's a good analysis. It's a scary one, but I don't think that will happen to us. I think
Yeah,
ServiceNow is going to going to grow and not just stop. So,
for
um,
sure.
but you're right. But that does highlight the fact that we're all on the same team there. And I think that also goes back to just kind of the thread that we've been having there of the education and the sharing of information, right? I think deep down, everyone in the ecosystem realizes that, right? So let's bring everybody up. I think yes, I know there's certain IP that you don't want out there, and I can understand that. And there's certain people paying for that IP and whatnot. So great, right? But the other stuff, yeah, let's bring it up and let's help each other out, right? And that just makes everything better, right? Because it just makes it a stronger organization. Um, I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to be respectful of your time. But I didn't know if you had any other parting words. I know we've kind of weaved through a few different topics here. This is kind of how my connects go. I do like it to be more of truly we're just sitting down in a coffee shop somewhere and talking over the table. But I didn't know if you had something else you wanted to bring up, something you wanted to share, anything like that before we
Um,
wrap up.
yeah. No, I agree. I enjoy the authentic part of it, just having a conversation, see where it goes. I definitely didn't prepare anything, but
Okay.
parting words, I'd definitely like to say, just anyone out there who not only wants to get in the ServiceNow ecosystem or whatever career, whether it's IT, business, creating a flower shop, whatever, just get out there and start trying this stuff. And as Bill McDermott, CEO, always says, dream big. And I'm a huge advocate of that as well. Like, have your dream be so big, like it scares you to where even if you miss that dream, I know the old saying, shoot for the stars. If you miss the stars, you might land on a cloud. That's incredibly true. Just
Right.
go out there, have a huge dream, really chase it. Only get, one spin around the globe. You might as well make the most of it. You absolutely
Mm.
can. So yeah, and also I can attest to this being a parent. None of us know what we're doing. We're all just adults for the first time. So
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, telling yourself you can't do things, telling yourself you'll never be able to be CEO of whatever company you want to be, things like that. And not even business wise. I really need to untie it to business, but just
Yeah.
in general, whatever
Yeah.
people want to be, I really think there's more opportunity out there for it than people realize. It's not a commodity where one person gets to be what you want to be, so you can't follow your dream. It's just the more we all kind of follow that, advance ourselves, be the most of ourselves that we can be. It's not a competition with others. It's just what do you want to accomplish and how do you get there? I think it's huge for people to realize they have that power to get where they want to be and do what they want to do. They just need that confidence in themselves to go out there and do it, and also realize along the way you're going to lose confidence. You're going to be scared. You won't know what you're doing. But if you keep moving forward and keep moving towards it, you're eventually going to get in a space where people are asking you, hey, how'd you do that? And then before you know it, you're literally an expert in whatever that is. And then you're able to give back. And then, yeah, most importantly, also, once you do get there, because I believe everyone can get where they want to be, make sure you give back and don't pull the ladder up, help others get to that kind of spot, make it easier for others coming into the world, give them the pros, the cons, like you said, the mistakes I made that you can avoid, all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
just, I think we just need to be more united as a human race, really, and all just pushing towards that goal of we're all just trying to make the world better.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. And I think, the I think what does hold a lot of people back is the why me, who am I, the fear of shining, right,
Yeah,
and being out there, and that imposter syndrome, right. I think I experienced it when we started Fusion 3. It's like kind of faking this thing here, right? Like, who are we to start this? But I think you're right. It's let's all contribute. I think if we do this all, you can do it. You can dream big. You can have big dreams. You can accomplish big things. There's people around you that can help you. Reach out to your close network, reach out to new networks, put yourself out there. You'll be amazed at what gets back in return, right? I'm a firm believer in that. Good karma going out, good karma comes back, 100-fold. So, keep that ladder extended for the next people coming along. You'll find your ladders that you can climb up and help, get help from other people. I really appreciate those words. I think that's really well said. And I think that goes, and you're right. It's not just tied to business. It's tied to everything. It goes back to your, the families at now, right? It goes back to that. That's not business related, right? That's helping elevate people and just in their personal lives and their family lives, right? And helping share that kind of information. So it can be anything. But yes, it all translates down to just kind of elevating humankind and making the world a better place in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it as well with the energy you give out and what you get back. It's 100% true, and not even like on a you can think about it in a universe scale, religion, spiritual, any way like that, but also just on a micro scale. I mean, if you go to Twitter and you're making 100 angry comments at other people, you're going to get nothing but 100 angry comments back. You're in fights.
Right.
If you're out there spreading positivity, telling people great job, well, some of them might say thanks, some might come up, some will probably still tell you to screw off.
Yeah.
That's what people do on Twitter, but the majority of the time you do get a lot more positive back if you're putting positive out there. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. No, and I'm case in point, just my little, Coffee with Kevin, snippets that I put out there on LinkedIn, these Koffee Connects. I get a lot of positive feedback. I'll probably get a lot of positive feedback on this one only because of you being on it. But that's okay.
Time will tell.
You have a big following and you're very well liked. So, but that's okay. No. But it's energizing. Right. And you can feel yourself get energized when you get that kind of feedback back. So Thanks again for the time, Brandon. I won't call you Dr. Brandon Brown, but I'm still just impressed. I just congrats on the PhDs, congrats on the change management search, just all of the continual learning that you do and all of the continued knowledge that you impart back out to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great to be here. And likewise to you. I hope you nothing but continued success. I mean, being an entrepreneur, I know that's a 100-hour-a-week job. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and the amount you put in versus what you get out is absolutely insane. So I commend you on that for sure. Guiding a business is not easy. So definitely hope you more success, and we'll have to do this again in 2 years and with our AI assisted computers.
You're right. Exactly.
See how different it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We might be AI avatars by then, but
exactly.
Who knows? This might be in complete 3D holographic images by then. So let's put that on the calendar. We'll see where we're at, and we can replay parts of this and see how accurate we were and where we are.
Sounds good.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Brent.
All right. Talk to you later.